Today we are making the cutest, most kid-friendly Easter dessert ever, egg hunt blondies. But before we can get into piping those adorable little grass tips and M&M eggs, we're gonna have to mix up the blondies first. The blondies are really quick and really easy to make. You're gonna start with 1 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour going straight into a small mixing bowl. To that, you're gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt. Give this a good whisk. And now we're gonna move on to the wet ingredients. To a large mixing bowl, you're gonna add a 1/2 cup of unsalted melted butter, a 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now we're just gonna whisk this all up. If you're not familiar with blondies, it's sort of like the vanilla cousin of a brownie. Now we're gonna add in the eggs, 1 large egg, plus the yolk of another egg. I'm just gonna toggle this back and forth and add my yolk right in. This extra yolk is gonna make your blondies super rich and super delicious. Lastly, for the wet ingredients, about 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now we're just gonna add the dry ingredients right in. Grab a spoon and start stirring. As soon as the flour looks like it sort of disappeared into the batter, we can move it over to our pan. Really delicious, just the right amount of salty and sweet. I've got an 8 by 8 inch baking dish, buttered and lined with a parchment paper sling. The whole reasoning for the parchment paper sling here is just so that we can lift those blondies easily out of the pan when they've finished baking. Our edges stay nice and clean this way. Just add the blondie batter right in, and I'm just gonna use my hands to slide it around, press it down. And if that batter is feeling a little sticky, you can just butter up your fingers, get right back to work. We'll pop these into a 350-degree preheated oven for about 25 minutes. Okay, timer's just gone off. Let's take a peek. Oh, they look pretty perfect. The beauty of the parchment paper sling here is this. You can easily use those edges to lift the blondies directly out, and then we can transfer them to a cooling rack. And what this is gonna do is it's just gonna allow the blondies to cool down a little bit faster so that we can get on to that festive decorating portion of the recipe. We're gonna let this cool for about 30 minutes on the rack, and then I'm gonna show you how to whip up the fluffiest, most perfect buttercream frosting in the world. Blondies are cool, and now we're gonna move on to that buttercream frosting. We're gonna start with 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of room temperature unsalted butter, and we'll add this right to the bowl of the stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can use a handheld mixer in a big bowl. It's like they're sliding into the bowl. We're also gonna add 2 3/4 cup of powdered sugar and about a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Be sure you start your mixer on low. And even then you have to watch out for the powdered sugar. Once it's looking mostly mixed up, we can start to increase that speed to medium, medium-high, and keep mixing until it looks nice and smooth. My goal here is a spring green. So I've got a bright green here, but just in case this isn't pastel enough, I might bring in a little blue. We'll just see how this goes. Okay, start small when it comes to food coloring and then build from there. And you also want to start mixing on low when there's food coloring in the bowl. Once it looks pretty well blended, you can crank up the speed. Ooh la la. That is the perfect green. I don't think I'm gonna touch it. It's just right. But one thing that you really do need to make sure that you do when you're working with food coloring and icing is wipe down the sides of the bowl. If you don't wipe down the sides of the bowl and the beaters, you'll end up with white splotches in your piping bag, and you don't want that. You want it to be a perfect festive green so that it can look like grass for an actual Easter egg hunt. Blondies are totally cooled. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my parchment paper sling from the bottom and transfer this over to a work surface. This is just begging to be decorated. What you're going to need to create this little egg hunt scene is a grass piping tip and a piping bag. Just snip off the end, fold over the sides, make way. Push the tip down to the end of the bag, and now it's ready for icing. Spoon in the icing. Bring the ends of the bag together and start pushing that icing down toward the tip, and you'll see it start to come out. Looks like little pieces of grass growing. And now I'm just gonna turn it upside down, gently squeeze and pull up. I'm just gonna keep going all across the face of the Blondies. Okay, just finishing up. And what you wanna do is look around for any little gaps, and then you can just add a little top dressing right over. And now we hide some eggs. I'm just using some pastel Easter M&Ms, and you just wanna sort of pop them in the little crevices of the grass. Honestly, y'all, there is not a cuter Easter dessert on the planet. Your baby's eyes are going to light up like you would not believe when they see this dessert. Now we're gonna cut them up for serving. To keep your pretty grass layer intact, you want a nice long sharp knife, and you have perfect little egg hunt Blondie squares. Transfer them over here to your cake stand or serving dish, and you're looking at the cutest Easter dessert on the block. If you're looking for more awesome desserts to try, be sure to check out my spring desserts playlist next.